Have you ever heard that statistic about the Philippines and like how many churches they have or don't have?
I think so.
You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, remind me.
It's the one about over half of the Philippines' 42,000 barangays don't have a Bible-based church.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's huge. When I first heard that number, I was like, whoa.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. And at first you might think, oh no, that's awful. Like it sounds like a failure.
Right.
But what if instead of seeing it as something lacking, we kind of flip the script?
Interesting.
What if it was like a gigantic opportunity just waiting to be explored? Like
Like an uncharted territory.
exactly, uncharted territory, but for faith. Like
Yeah.
a whole new frontier. And that's what we're going to deep dive into today.
I like that. An uncharted territory of faith. Sign me up.
Right. It's exciting. So the story we're looking at is mostly from this book called The Harvest Beyond.
Okay, I've heard of this one.
Have you? It's basically like a blueprint, a vision for how to bring spiritual and national renewal to the Philippines through church planting.
Church planting. Makes sense.
So what we want to do today for you listening is pull out like the absolute key insights from this book.
The good stuff.
Exactly. Like we want to understand the sheer scale of this. How big is this opportunity really?
Right, and what are the unique challenges?
And how are they tackling those challenges? What are the innovative approaches they're taking?
And then ultimately, what impact is all this going to have?
Exactly. On the Philippines, as a nation, as a people, as a spiritual landscape.
We're talking about some serious transformation.
Huge transformation. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a really solid grasp of what this movement's all about.
Awesome.
Okay. So the book itself, right off the bat, it lays out these three core challenges.
Okay.
First one is the crazy geography.
Yeah, that's a big one. The Philippines is,
Over 7,600 islands. It's a lot.
it's a lot. Logistically, that's got to be a nightmare.
It's intense. And then on top of that, you've got incredible cultural diversity.
That's right. Over 170 languages, I think.
It's mind-blowing. So you can imagine just communicating the message is a challenge in itself.
Absolutely.
And then the third challenge is that there are these really serious socioeconomic disparities.
Right. Poverty, lack of access to education, healthcare,
Yeah.
the basics.
Yeah. And all of that makes it harder for churches to be sustainable.
Huge hurdle.
So we'll definitely get into how this movement is tackling each of those challenges.
Looking forward to that.
Okay, so first things first. We often hear the Philippines called a Christian nation, right?
We do.
But is it really as spiritually saturated as people think?
That's a good question because it makes you think, what does Christian nation actually even mean?
Right. Like, what does that look like in reality?
Exactly. Because the book kind of pushes back on that label a little bit.
Yeah.
It's saying that there's more to the story, especially when you get outside of the big cities.
Yeah. In the cities, you'll see churches, you'll hear people talking about faith.
Right. It's part of the culture.
But the book really emphasizes that if you go to the more rural areas, it's a completely different picture.
Okay. So there's like a disconnect between the urban centers and
The countryside.
the countryside.
Yeah, like you might have entire barangays.
Remind me again, what's a barangay?
It's basically the smallest administrative unit in the Philippines. So think like a village or a neighborhood.
Okay. Got it.
And you have entire barangays that exist in what the book calls spiritual isolation.
So they're cut off not just from churches, but
From the message itself,
yeah.
like in a lot of these places, it hasn't even been heard at all.
Wow.
It's like a whole other world out there.
It's almost hard to comprehend.
And the book frames this not just as an absence, but as a form of neglect.
Powerful word.
It is. But then, and here's where it gets interesting, they take this situation and they reframe it.
Okay. How so?
Instead of focusing on the despair of the situation, they present it as this like,
Call to action.
yes, a divine summons to awaken.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. Like it's not about dwelling on what's missing. It's about,
Taking action.
yeah,
Doing something about it.
exactly. And they paint this incredibly vivid picture of what could be.
Okay.
Like they talk about spiritual desolation becoming spiritual habitation. They talk about forgotten barangays being transformed into like centers of discipleship,
So these overlooked places becoming like,
hubs of faith, epicenters of mission.
it's a powerful image.
It is. And it challenges us to look beyond the current reality and see what's possible.
To see the potential.
Exactly. So we're starting to get a sense of the scale of this opportunity, but now the question is why focus on the barangay specifically?
Yeah, why not just churches in general? What's so special about the barangay?
Well, the book makes a really compelling case for it. They say that the barangay, it's not just a place on a map.
Oh.
It's like the heartbeat of community life in the Philippines.
So it's about more than just geography.
So much more. It's where relationships are built, traditions are kept alive.
It's where people live their lives.
Exactly. And the vision here isn't just about building churches, it's about planting hubs of hope right in the heart of these communities.
So the church becomes integral to the community.
Exactly. The goal is for faith to be woven into the very fabric of daily life.
I'm seeing a theme here of integration.
Definitely. It's about impacting not just people's spiritual lives, but also
Everything. Their relationships, their education, their economic opportunities, their social well-being.
it's a completely holistic approach.
It's recognizing that faith touches every part of life.
It does. Now, earlier we talked about the geography, the 7,641 islands.
Yeah, that was a big number.
Just the logistics of getting to all those places.
That's a challenge.
It's insane. So how do you even begin to navigate a landscape that fragmented?
Right. I'm imagining boats and planes and...
Oh, yeah, they talk about all that. The book describes what they call the multifaceted journey of a church planter.
multifaceted. I like that.
It often involves a flight to a regional hub, then a motorcycle ride.
Through the jungle.
Yeah, pretty much. Through rural roads, mountains, rough terrain,
Wow.
and then finally a boat trip across sometimes very unpredictable seas.
So it's an adventure just to get there.
It is. They talk about strong currents, unpredictable weather, rugged terrain.
Sounds intense.
It is. So how do you overcome those kinds of obstacles?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear this.
Well, they emphasize the importance of what they call faithful innovation.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
So they talk about using modular transportation solutions, which basically means,
Combining different modes of transport.
yeah, so it could be a plane, then a motorcycle, then a boat.
Whatever gets you there.
Exactly. Whatever's most efficient and adaptable.
Makes sense.
And then another really key thing they emphasize is local partnerships.
Oh, that's smart.
Right? Like you need people on the ground who know the area.
Who can navigate the terrain?
Exactly. Who understand the local customs, the
Yes.
culture.
The unspoken rules.
Yeah. That local knowledge is priceless.
Absolutely.
And then they also talk about using technology strategically.
Okay, like how?
Things like digital mapping to pinpoint the unreached areas.
To target their efforts?
Yes. And to coordinate outreach efforts so everyone's on the same page.
So technology is like a tool for connection.
It is. And then they also talk about developing agile networked outreach.
Okay, break that down for me.
Basically, it means forming these flexible teams that can adapt to different situations.
So they can respond to the specific needs of each community?
Exactly. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
It's about being nimble and responsive.
Exactly. So they're combining traditional methods with modern technology and a lot of ingenuity.
It sounds like a very thoughtful approach.
It is. Okay, so now let's add another layer of complexity.
Get me.
Cultural diversity.
Ah, yes. The Philippines has a lot of that.
Over 170 languages.
Just trying to communicate in that environment.
It's mind-boggling. So how do you engage with such a rich tapestry of cultures?
Yeah, it's got to be more than just translating the Bible.
It is. The book really stresses that they say effective engagement. It goes way beyond translation.
Okay, so what's the key?
Contextualization.
Contextualization. What does that mean in this context?
So it's like imagine you're tailoring a suit.
Okay, I'm following.
You don't just give everyone the same size and shape. You adjust it to fit each person perfectly.
So you're adapting the message to fit the culture.
Exactly. The core message stays the same, but how it's communicated, how it's applied.
That changes.
It has to. You have to understand and respect the different customs, traditions.
The social norms of each community.
All of that. It's about meeting people where they are.
So it's not about imposing a foreign belief system.
No, it's about showing how the message connects to their lives, their experiences,
Their culture.
their culture.
Yeah.
And the book talks about some really interesting strategies for doing this.
Like what?
Well, one thing is engaging with local lore.
Folk tales, traditional stories.
Exactly. And respecting those ancestral narratives.
So instead of dismissing them, they're saying,
Let's build bridges.
let's find common ground.
Exactly. Show how the message of hope and redemption connects with their existing worldview.
That's fascinating.
It is. It's about making it relevant.
And respectful.
Definitely. So it's about finding those cultural touch points, those existing stories and traditions, and showing how the message resonates with them.
I'm really liking this approach.
It's pretty amazing. And the ultimate goal is to foster this dynamic interaction between the gospel and local culture.
That's why they enrich each other.
Exactly. Empowering community voices, affirming local identity.
So it's not about erasing cultural distinctiveness.
No, It's about celebrating it, seeing it as fertile ground for faith to take root.
It's a beautiful picture.
It is. Okay, so now let's talk about the third major challenge, socioeconomic disparities.
Right. Poverty, lack of access to basic services. It's a tough one.
It's huge. And the book acknowledges that it creates serious obstacles, not just for individuals, but also for new churches.
Yeah. How do you build a sustainable church when people are struggling to survive?
Exactly. So their approach is focused on what they call holistic church planting strategies.
So we're back to that theme again.
We are. It's about recognizing that people's needs go beyond just the spiritual.
They need food, shelter, healthcare.
All of that. And the church can be a source of support in all those areas.
So it's about meeting practical needs alongside spiritual needs.
Exactly. And they give some really concrete examples in the book.
Like what?
Well, for one, they talk about church-based livelihood programs.
So helping people become self-sufficient.
Exactly. Things like microfinance initiatives, vocational training.
So they can earn a living, support their families.
Yeah, break the cycle of poverty.
That's so important.
It is. And then they also talk about contextualized education.
Okay, so tailoring education to the specific context.
Exactly. Like for communities with low literacy rates, they might do oral-based discipleship.
Ah, so passing on the teachings through storytelling and spoken word.
Exactly. Or they might use Bible stories to teach literacy.
That's clever. Using what's familiar and meaningful.
Yeah, it's about being creative and adaptable.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Definitely. And then they also emphasize sustainable church models.
Like what kind of models?
Things like house churches that don't require expensive buildings. So keeping it simple and accessible.
Exactly. And training bivocational pastors.
So pastors who have other jobs.
Yes, so they can support themselves and their families while still serving the church.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does. And of course, they emphasize compassion ministries.
Things like medical outreach feeding programs.
Yeah. Meeting those immediate critical needs.
Showing love in action.
Exactly. So the vision is for churches to become these like beacons of hope.
Centers of empowerment and transformation.
Exactly. Tackling real-world problems and bringing real change.
It's inspiring.
It is. Okay, so now let's talk about collaboration. The book's title itself, The Harvest Beyond.
It hints at something bigger than just individual effort.
Yeah, they really emphasize the importance of working together. They even call it the fallacy of going it alone.
Interesting. So they're saying that partnership is essential.
It's crucial,
Yeah.
and they give a bunch of reasons why.
Okay. I'm all ears.
First of all, it expands your reach.
Yeah. No single organization can be everywhere.
Especially not across 7,600 islands. Right, so you need to pool resources and expertise.
Exactly. And that brings us to the second reason, maximizing resources.
So you're not duplicating efforts, wasting time and money.
Exactly. And the third reason is that it strengthens church planters.
Ah, that's important. Because this work is hard.
It is. It can be incredibly isolating and draining.
So having a network of support is crucial.
It is. It helps prevent burnout. It provides encouragement and mentorship.
It's like having a team behind you.
Exactly. And then the final reason they give is that it enhances credibility.
Okay, how so?
Well, when different groups work together in unity,
It sends a powerful message.
it does. It shows that this isn't about competition or individual agendas.
It's about something bigger.
Exactly. It's about the mission.
So what does this covenant of partnership actually look like in practice?
Okay, well, they lay out some key elements.
I'm taking notes.
First, you need a shared vision. Everyone needs to be on the same page.
Working towards the same goal.
Exactly. Planting thriving, faith-centered churches in every barangay. And then there has to be mutual trust.
No competition, just collaboration.
Exactly. It's about putting the mission first.
The big picture.
Yes. And then you also need clear roles and responsibilities.
So everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing.
And who to go to for what.
Minimizes confusion.
Exactly. And then sustainable support is crucial.
So not just a one-time thing.
But ongoing support.
Ongoing support for church planters and for new churches.
For the long haul.
Because this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And then underpinning all of this is prayerful dependence.
Recognizing that ultimately it's God's work.
Exactly. We can make plans and strategize, but
we need His guidance.
absolutely. And they even talk about different types of partnerships.
Okay, tell me more.
So they have skill-based partnerships.
So people with specific expertise can contribute.
Exactly. Like translators, media creators, business managers, project coordinators.
All sorts of skills can be valuable.
Absolutely. And then they also talk about organizational collaboration.
So churches and ministries working together.
Yes. Sharing resources, coordinating strategies, communicating openly.
It's about maximizing their collective impact.
Exactly. Okay, now let's talk about funding.
Ah, the money question.
Every big movement needs it. So how does the book frame the role of financial support?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear this.
Well, they have a really interesting way of looking at it. They call it kingdom investment.
Kingdom investment, that's a powerful phrase.
It is. It's about seeing your financial gifts not just as donations, but as investments.
Investments in God's work.
Exactly. Investments in something bigger than yourself, something with eternal significance.
It's a shift in perspective.
It is. And they talk about where this financial partnership actually makes a difference on the ground.
Okay, like where specifically?
So first of all, in research and mapping.
So identifying the unreached areas,
Right.
understanding the specific needs,
Exactly. Then in training and equipping church planters.
giving them the tools and skills they need,
Yes. And providing essential resources.
like Bible's discipleship materials, transportation,
All of that. And then finally, in sustaining new churches.
so they can thrive and grow.
Exactly. And they also emphasize the importance of accountability.
That's crucial, especially when you're dealing with people's money.
Absolutely. They talk about clear reporting mechanisms, independent audits, donor engagement,
So people can see where their money's going.
and how it's being used.
Transparency is
It's
key.
essential. And they also stress that every gift matters no matter the size.
I like that. It makes it feel like everyone can participate.
Exactly. Whether it's a few dollars or a major donation, every bit helps.
It all adds up.
It does. And they encourage financial partners to see themselves as co-laborers.
Ah, so it's not just about giving money. It's about being part of the team.
Exactly. And that can look like different things.
Like what?
Regular communication with the church planters, opportunities to visit the field.
To see the impact firsthand.
Yeah. And fostering a legacy mindset.
Legacy mindset.
Yeah.
So thinking long-term about your giving.
Exactly. Making it a consistent part of your life.
I like that. It's a beautiful picture of partnership.
It is. Okay, so beyond financial and skill-based partnerships, there's another crucial piece of the puzzle.
What's that?
Prayer.
Ah, yes. The power of prayer.
They actually call it the foundation of this whole movement.
Wow. So it's not just a nice addition, it's essential.
It's the bedrock. They say that prayer is the unseen engine of church planting.
The unseen engine. I like that image.
It's powerful, and they talk about how prayer actually brings about specific outcomes.
Okay, what are they?
So first of all, prayer prepares hearts.
Softens people's hearts, makes them more receptive,
Exactly. Then it empowers church planters.
gives them strength, wisdom, courage.
All of that. And it breaks down spiritual barriers.
The things that are holding people back from God.
Exactly. And then finally, it creates divine opportunities.
Opens doors that wouldn't have opened otherwise.
Exactly. And they really highlight the role of intercessors.
The people who dedicate themselves to praying for this work.
Yeah. They call them the hidden warriors of the mission.
I love that. It acknowledges their vital role.
It does. And they talk about the importance of organized prayer networks.
So people coming together to pray specifically for this movement.
Yes, at the local level, the regional level, even online.
So no matter where you are, you can join in.
Exactly. And they also talk about focused prayer campaigns.
Okay, what are those?
So it's about praying strategically for specific needs.
Like what kind of needs?
Praying for open doors within communities, protection for church planters, the breaking down of spiritual strongholds, the establishment of deep roots for new believers.
It's about being intentional with your prayers.
Exactly. And they illustrate how prayer actually fuels church growth.
Okay, how so?
It leads to a greater openness to the message, supernatural provision, increased boldness among believers, rapid multiplication of disciples in churches.
It's incredible how much impact prayer can have.
It really is. Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, the strategies, the partnerships. What about the ultimate goal? What kind of impact do they envision?
The ripple effect.
Exactly. They use this really great analogy of a drop of water creating ripples.
Spreading outward.
Exactly. And they describe 4 key dimensions of this ripple effect.
Okay, lay them on me.
So first, you have spiritual awakening.
Individuals coming to know God, experiencing transformation.
Yes. Then community empowerment.
Churches addressing practical needs, fostering development.
Exactly. Then leadership development.
Raising up local leaders who can carry the torch.
Yes. And finally, generational impact.
Passing on the faith to future generations.
Exactly. So it's about this profound transformation that goes beyond individual conversions.
About changing the very fabric of society.
Exactly. They talk about how churches can become centers for education, healthcare, economic opportunity.
Breaking cycles of poverty, bringing lasting change.
It's a really powerful vision.
It is.
Okay, so as we wrap up here, the book has a message for you, the listener.
Okay, what do they say?
They say that everyone has a role to play in this movement.
No matter who you are, where you come from.
Exactly. And they outline 4 main ways to get involved.
Okay.
Financial partnership.
Investing in the work.
Yes. Prayer partnership.
Becoming part of that unseen engine.
Exactly. Skill-based partnership.
Using your talents and expertise.
Yes. And volunteering or even church planting.
Stepping out into the field.
Exactly. So whatever your gifts are, whatever your passion is,
There's a place for you.
there is. So as we close, let's revisit that bold vision they laid out at the beginning.
Every barangay in the Philippines radiating with hope and the transformative presence of faith.
That's the dream.
It's a beautiful dream.
It is. And what are the key takeaways we want to leave you with?
First of all, the sheer scale of the opportunity.
The uncharted territory of faith.
Exactly. And then the unique challenges they're facing.
The geography, the culture, the socioeconomic disparities.
But also the incredible ways they're addressing those challenges.
Innovation, contextualization, collaboration.
And the power of partnership.
Financial, prayerful, skill-based.
Fams together.
It does. And then finally, the ripple effect, the transformation that spreads outward from these churches.
Impacting individuals, communities, generations.
It's about planting hope, restoring dignity, creating a legacy that lasts.
It's about so much more than just buildings.
So much more. It's about changing lives and changing the world. And the book leaves you with this final question.
A call to action.
What role will you play in this movement?
How will you answer this call to transformation?
What will your legacy be?
And maybe even check out resources like the Philippine Church Update Database.
A great example of their data-driven approach.
A way to see the tangible efforts being made.
So what will you do? How will you be a part of this story of hope and transformation?
The harvest is waiting.